In this video, I'll be talking about TCP, the three basic things that TCP does in brief. Um, and then I'll move on to congestion control and how congestion control is done using congestion avoidance and slow start algorithms. So the three basic things that TCP controls or guarantees in a way are reliable transport, flow control, and congestion control. So these are the three things that are guaranteed by TCP. Let me. So reliable transport guarantees that every packet that you send will be received. And if there is some kind of a network loss in between due to the network, it will be compensated for. So the packets will be resent and eventually they will be received correctly and in order. Flow control guarantees that the sender will not overwhelm the receiver, and this is established using the uh, advertisement of windows, which is done during the TCP handshake by writing the window size into the window size field in the TCP header. The third thing is congestion control. That is, when the sender recognizes that there is congestion in the network, it will take actions accordingly. So it will try to not overwhelm the network. So reliable transport, flow control, and congestion control. These are the three things that TCP does. And these are all the three things that TCP does, but UDP does not. And TCP is also connection oriented, which UDP isn't. So you have to set up a connection where you synchronize your sequence numbers, that is your initial sequence numbers, so that you can number your sequences and your acts accordingly. And in the connection establishment, you also advertise your window size. So these are the things that TCP does. These are the three main things. TCP does not provide timing or throughput guarantees, such as throughput guarantees that are provided by circuit switch networks. Remember that the internet is a packet switch networks. So there is no throughput guarantee because every time you send a data packet, it might take a different route to reach its destination. That is, might take a different route in the core network to reach its destination. It might pass through different routers. The difference between TCP and UDP headers is basically because UDP does not do anything like reliability. So UDP does not have sequence numbers, ACK numbers, or all these flags. And also because UDP does not do flow control, so it doesn't have a window size field either. UDP does have a header and data checksum, through which we check if the data we have received is correct or not, and if not, it is discarded. But in UDP, there's no such thing as a retransmission because in UDP, the receiver has no way of informing the sender that it did not receive the packet. So source port, destination port, length, header and data checksum, these are the fields that are common to both TCP and UDP, but everything else, all of these fields are a feature of TCP. That is, they are there to help TCP implement certain features which UDP does not. Flow control versus congestion control. Flow control is to ensure that the receiver is not overwhelmed. Congestion control is to ensure that the network is not overwhelmed. So we have covered flow control till now. That is in TCP handshake. We have seen how flow control can be done by advertising a window size. Now we'll see how congestion control is done. That is, what does TCP do when it recognizes that there is congestion in the network? And the way it recognizes congestion is when it does not receive an ACK, it assumes that there is a packet loss. And it infers that if there is a packet loss, then that means that there is congestion in the network. So what can cause congestion? Too many hosts trying to send data at too high a rate. If that is the case, then that might cause congestion. So intermediate routers are actually overwhelmed by this amount of data that you're sending. So that can be the overflowing of buffers of the intermediate routers. And the first condition was sending data at too high a rate, which might overwhelm the links, that is the wired links or wireless links in between. What can be the result of congestion? Packet loss. The direct result of congestion is packet loss. Packets will be lost, or they will definitely at least be delayed due to congestion, even if they're not lost. If they are lost, how do we recover? We retransmit those packets. But this recovers from congestion. It does not avoid congestion. What do we do if we want to avoid congestion altogether? We start sending less number of packets. That is, we throttle senders in the face of network congestion. Let's look at some causes of congestion. The first cause might be the links in between, that is, these wired links in between. Even if you assume that the intermediate routers have unlimited size in their buffers and they have unlimited processing capacity for the data that they receive, the links that connect these routers to you might not have unlimited bandwidth. So because we have a limited bandwidth, and this limited bandwidth is being shared two ways, because TCP is full duplex, so it's a two-way street. Data is being sent and received on the same links. And because we have to share this limited bandwidth, if suddenly one host tries to send a lot more data, it will definitely experience a lot of delay, simply because the link cannot support that much data at a time. So if the bandwidth starts increasing to a certain number, the delay starts increasing exponentially. If the bandwidth approaches R by 2, say if the total bandwidth is R and two senders are trying to send data, one sender is trying to send data. If the bandwidth approaches R by 2, the delay increases exponentially. So average delay becomes larger and larger. And a delay beyond a certain time limit will definitely result in the timer of your TCP sender running out. And because this timer will run out, it will assume that there has been a data loss. So we can't wait forever. The timeout will occur, and then the sender will assume that the packet has been lost. So even if the packet has not actually been lost and there is a delay for the sender, it is equal to a packet loss. And in the second case, if there is actually a buffer overflow, say if the buffers in the intermediate routers do have a finite capacity and a lot of hosts are trying to send data through the same routers, then there will definitely be buffer overflow. And when buffers overflow, packets will simply be dropped. And if packets are dropped, then that directly means packet loss. So how do we do TCP congestion control? In TCP, the way we start doing congestion control, that is the way we start bandwidth probing, as we've seen earlier, is if we perceive that a congestion is low in the network, we start sending more and more data. And this is done after bandwidth probing. All of this is done after bandwidth probing. So if in the initial bandwidth probing, there is low congestion, the TCP will start sending data at a higher rate every time it sends data. So it increases its send rate. And if there is a perceived congestion, then the send rate will be lowered. So the approach to how to identify existence of congestion is basically using bandwidth probing, which is done in slow start, which we'll see later. And basically what we do is, when we send less data, when it means that we send data at a lower rate, it just means that our sender's window or our congestion window will get reduced in size if we are sending less packets at a time. So our transmission window will get reduced in size. And if congestion is low, our transmission window will get increased in size every time we send a packet. We send packets. So At the end of every RTT, all of this will be evaluated. So basically, if you have successfully received an ACK, then you assume that the network is congestion free. That is, your source to the destination where you're sending the data packet to does not have any congestion in between. So if everything is fine, why don't we try to send more packets at a time? So if we are successfully receiving ACKs, we will try to send more packets at a time. And how will we do that? We'll increase the congestion window or our transmission window. As soon as we get a loss, because eventually the network might get congested, as soon as we perceive a loss, this means that our data rate, that is sending data rate, should be decreased. And how do we do that? We reduce the congestion window or we reduce the transmission window. So if packets are being lost, we try to send less packets at a time. So the key thing here is that TCP sender increases its transmission rate to basically probe for the rate at which congestion onset begins. And once it has reached that rate, or once it recognizes that it might reach that rate, it will back off. That is, it will reduce its rate and then again begins to probe once again to see if congestion onset has changed. Because this congestion onset, that is the rate at the sending rate at which congestion occurs, will also keep changing from time to time because there are other hosts on the same network too. So how do we do this bandwidth probing? We do bandwidth probing using the slow start algorithm. So what we do is we follow slow start until we detect a loss or until a threshold value of our congestion window is reached. So basically what we do is we double the congestion window every RTT, which you can see in this diagram. So in the first RTT, we sent one segment, got back an ACK. And since we got back an ACK, it means that there is no congestion. So we will double our congestion window. So the next RTT, we'll send 2 packets at once. And hopefully we get back 2 ACKs. And if we do, then that means that there still isn't any congestion. So that means we might be able to send more packets. So now we double our congestion window again, and we send 4 segments at a time and hopefully get back 4 ACKs. If we do get back these ACKs, then that means there is still no congestion in the network. Then now I will double my window again and send 8 segments at a time and hopefully get back 8 ACKs. So this is the first round, this is the second round, this is the third round, this is the fourth round, and there can be many more rounds depending on what is actually happening in the network, how many hosts are connected, how much data they're trying to send, etc. Which is why we have to keep probing, because we never know who else is trying to access the same network. So we double the congestion window every RTT. This is one RTT, this is one RTT, this is one RTT, and so on. We keep doubling the congestion window till, remember, till we either reach a threshold or till we detect a loss. Now, what is this threshold? We'll see later. Suppose we have just started doing slow start. So when we have just started doing slow start, we don't have any kind of a threshold value set. But what will happen is eventually at some point, we might suffer packet loss. Suppose there is a packet loss here. Suppose this packet is lost. Then now this means that host A will recognize, that is the TCP protocol running in host A will recognize that when it tried to send 4 packets, there was a packet loss. So now next time when it tries to send anything, it has to make sure that it never sends 4 packets at a time. So now this means that this slow start cannot occur till this stage. It has to stop before this stage. That is, it has to stop at this stage, the stage previous to this stage, which means that my congestion window cannot be more than 2 in size, right? Because this stage had congestion window value 2. So that means that the first time I actually have packet loss, when I didn't have a threshold set yet, what I'll do is the congestion window size of this divided by 2 will be my threshold value, because the congestion window size of this divided by 2 is the congestion window size here, just the previous step. So that I know that next time when I try to do slow start, I should not exceed this value of the congestion window, because as soon as I exceed this value, that is, I double this congestion window size again, there is definitely going to be packet loss, because it happened last time too. So I know that I should not exceed this value, which means that the first time I actually have any packet loss, the window size here divided by 2 will be my threshold window size. So this threshold is decided after the first time you actually do bandwidth probing. And then there's also something called congestion avoidance. So as I said earlier, bandwidth probing or this slow start will basically have to end sometime, right? So it will either end when a loss is detected or when the threshold is reached. So this time our threshold was 2. So when we reach window size 2, we will not do this exponential increasing anymore. What we will actually do is we will enter the congestion avoidance stage, where we increase the window size just by 1 and not doubling like we were doing earlier. So there's two things here: slow start and congestion avoidance. So we go from slow start and we stop doing the slow start when we reach our threshold value. Suppose in this diagram, the threshold value was 16. So when we reach 16, we know that this is the threshold at which a packet loss had occurred last time I tried to do this. Suppose there is some other graph here too, where the first transmission has taken place, so that I have actually set the threshold. So we know that beyond this threshold, that is when I went to 16 times 32, there was a packet loss. So I can't go to 16 times 32 again. So which means, but I can still try to increase from beyond 16, right? So I will increase by 1, 1, 1. So as you can see here, this was 1, then this was 2. This is all congestion window length, right? So 1, 2, 4, 8, 16. But now 16 is my threshold. So I can't go to 32 now. I have to stop doing this. And now I have to start doing congestion avoidance, which is increasing window 1 by 1. So this is 17, 18, 19, and so on. But then, because I'm still increasing, there will be packet loss somewhere here too, right? There might be packet loss here. What will happen then? If there is a packet loss here in congestion avoidance, we will restart everything. That is, if the graph goes here, next this will fall down and we will restart with the slow start. So you can see this here. So you can see that every time we hit a wall, and by hit a wall, I mean we have a packet loss, we will restart this entire process again. So we will restart this entire process again. And as you can see from this diagram, slow start, the time for which we are doing slow start, that is the amount of transmissions for which we are doing slow start, is decreasing, because every time we have a packet loss, that is every time we hit the wall, the threshold value will also be halved. Like I said earlier, the threshold value will also be halved. So the threshold value should be the value previous to what we had when we hit the wall, right? So every time we have a packet loss, this threshold value will be halved. And then the next time, once we reach this new threshold value, we will enter congestion avoidance. So even if there has not been any packet loss here, we have entered congestion avoidance, because we have reached the threshold value, and we have reached the threshold value here, and here, and so on. If the threshold value is too small, we will basically do congestion avoidance only, right? So this is putting it all together. This is congestion control. That is the two ways we do congestion control: slow start, and then going into congestion avoidance when we hit the threshold value. And then here, if there is a packet loss somewhere, we restart with the slow start again. But this time the threshold, this 16 threshold will be halved to 8. So we will only do slow start till here. And after this, we will start doing congestion avoidance. I'll make this a bit clearer. So now the new threshold is 8 because there has been a packet loss. So I will go to 8. I will go till 8 when I'm doing slow start. And after 8, my congestion window size won't be 16 because now I'm not following slow start. Now I'm following congestion avoidance. So now after 8, it will be 9, 10, 11. And then when I hit another wall, this 8 will also be halved again. And the new threshold in that case will be 8 divided by 2, that is 4. So you can refer to diagrams like these. There's things on Wikipedia too. But this is the basic of congestion control using slow start, given in pink, and congestion avoidance. But also remember that if whenever any of these things are happening, if we still get 3 duplicate acts of about on a packet, if we get still 3 duplicate acts, we will enter into fast retransmit. So the final way in which slow start can end is if we get 3 duplicate acts, that is 1 original and 3 duplicate. So 4 acts for a packet. If 4 acts for a packet are detected, one after the other, in that case, we will perform a fast retransmit. So slow start will end and fast retransmit will begin in that case. Otherwise, the two ways slow start can end is that we reach the threshold. When we reach the threshold, that is when the congestion window equals the SS thresh, or when there is an actual packet loss. And when there is a packet loss, slow start will end and we will restart. We will start the slow start algorithm or congestion avoidance, whichever stage you were in. Everything will end basically here. As soon as there is a packet loss, everything will end. Whatever threshold was will be set to a new value, which is half of the previous one, and we will restart slow start. Threshold will be halved and slow start will start over. So if there is a packet loss during slow start, threshold will be halved and slow start will start over. If there is a packet loss during congestion avoidance, then two threshold will be halved and we will start slow start once again. So this is the basics of congestion control. And after this, we will cover IPv4 addressing.